So let's get going. Welcome everybody to the community update. So both you here and some people who are online. So before I go through the board meeting, let me just introduce a person who doesn't need to be introduced, but I will introduce him in any case. Kalle Heldin, who is the chair of the board among many of his other responsibilities in life, and I thought that since we have Kalle here in Stockholm today for other reasons, it would be good for him to say a few patronizing word for our well-being and sort of a future direction. So Kalle, please.
Thank you very much, Olli. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me also welcome you all to this information meeting. You who have come here in Stockholm and those who are sitting in Uppsala following the discussion from there. So Science for Life Laboratory has a very capable leadership with Olli as the director, Siv as vice director, and Annika as the infrastructure director, as well as very keen representatives from the various hosting universities. Scilifelab also benefit a lot from the competent and very eager and committed people at the administration and who are involved in running the facilities. Having said that, however, your input from the sort of SciLife staff is absolutely essential in order for Scilifelab to function in the way it should. And your feedback on the activities that Scilifelab is involved in is much appreciated and very important for the progress of Scilifelab. So therefore, it's a pleasure to see so many of you here, and hopefully there is people also in Uppsala. And with this very short introduction, I'd leave the word to Olli, who will tell you some of the recent activities at Scilifelab. Please.
Okay, thanks so much, Kalle. Anybody have any comments? Let's at least give an applaud for Kalle for kind words to us. So as usual, this is an update of what happened at the board meeting. Board meeting actually lasts for 5 hours, so I'm not going to keep you here for 5 hours, but we'll do only a few quick highlights that were discussed at the meeting. I typically run, because this happens 4 times a year, I typically run a quarterly update of what has happened at Scilifelab as far as we know, because obviously a lot of things happen all the time, and interesting things happen all the time, but some of the visible things from the news and so forth. And it's important to update the board. Many of you have seen these things already through the newsletters, because it's typically there as well. But one thing that I thought to also talk to you about is this call that was interesting, that VR organized a call that was entirely devoted to infrastructures and their utility or application in healthcare and industry, and they solicited applications. 35 were submitted, not only from Scilifelab, but also from MAX4 and ESS. So this was only meant for those national infrastructures. And altogether 9 were approved, 11 were submitted from Scilifelab, 3 of these were approved, and obviously we are happy for this special treatment from VR that national infrastructure could get. Obviously the competition was pretty tough there. One of the things that was approved and that I highlight here is the application by Lars Hammarström and all the host universities that were involved here, which concerned the creation of an external relations office, which kind of exists already in Lasse's office, but now this will be a bigger and more formal operation to link us with healthcare, link us with industrial communities, and that's obviously an important goal for Scilifelab as a whole. Skipping many of the other news, but just updating you also here that some of the equipment that was recently funded by Scilifelab is now starting to be purchased and are appearing at Scilifelab, so such as the next-gen sequencing, the NovaSeq sequencing systems, also clinical genomics purchasing a big high-performance computing system. There's also some compound handling infrastructure that was also partly purchased by Scilifelab funds, partly by the platform funds. One thing that I would like to highlight here for those of you who work in the facilities was that we have had some discussions recently, and I don't want to go into the details of these things, about issues on freedom to operate with the technologies that Scilifelab has available. And I think in the future we will, this is more like just a prelude of things to come, would like to pay more attention to the fact that the facilities actually have freedom to operate with the technologies and services that they are providing without infringing any patent rights or commercial rights, and even more broadly that Scilifelab services should not interfere with the commercial interest, even if we do have a right to perform these tests. I think we should not perform them if there is concern from the community that we are infringing or otherwise interfering with commercial rights. So we should sort of pay attention to this in the future. And also an issue that was brought up on another standpoint, that we should make clear that Scilifelab facilities operate such that their key people do not have personal conflict of interest with the facilities or companies that are providing these services to the facilities. So these are almost like self-explanatory things. At the same time, we want to promote collaboration, but it just needs to be done in a transparent and with companies. So not that it concerns the national mandate that much, but I just pointed out here that we had a recently both kind of a top-down and bottom-up discussions on Campus Solna. We had Scilifelab Stockholm Rectors meeting, and I'll say a few words on that at the end if I have time. But then we also had a PI retreat last week, and that was also very good to have the local PIs to come up with ideas on how this campus should develop forward. It's a major investment to keep these two houses together, and it's also a site for much of the national infrastructure, so it's important for Scilifelab as a whole, and I'll get back to that in a short while. Karin Dahlman-Wright was updating on the process underway at KI, which I understand is a little bit underway at Uppsala as well, to purchase a system that would, an IT system that would support core facilities in their operation, and they would hope in both KI and UU and maybe us as well to really see what is the best system for something like that, and could we have a joint Scilifelab-wide system available in the future. Maybe Annika and others can update more on this at the end if you like. One thing that was mentioned in the agenda and that we decided at the last board meeting was funding for the diagnostic development platform. And we were just with Kalle actually with the steering board of the Genome Medicine Sweden initiative in Stockholm, where they were discussing this issue that we have had clinical genomics facilities funded here in Stockholm, funded in Uppsala for a long time. 2 years ago, Lund and Göteborg, Gothenburg linked to this effort. And now Linköping, Umeå and Örebro, who are not yet members, would also like to join. And they actually sent us an application. Well, we don't really have a system to join new facilities in the middle of the funding period, but we definitely want to see the whole Sweden be part of diagnostic development, translational work for the clinic. And therefore a decision was made that we would first fund for the next 2 years a national network to make this happen, so that everybody could feel that they are part of this translational development. And now this is done and funded, and it may lead into the future to a kind of a clinical genomics Sweden facility, where all these individual universities would jointly run translational research, and this would link to the Genome Medicine Sweden. But importantly, for all of you working on other things than genomics, this network would then be available for us to link to the healthcare, because all of the, not just university, but all the healthcare regions are part of the GMS network. So I think this is really important translational avenue for Scilifelab to take things towards the healthcare, and this is like the first step in that direction. So as you know, this is what we are. This should read Scilifelab, but somehow, well, now it is available. So we have some things that are clearly researchy, mostly on helping academia. The diagnostic development platform has already been bridging things a little bit to the clinic, and now the GMS, Genome Medicine Sweden project that just received 40 million from Vinnova funding will be more of a healthcare effort. So we should link these things not just as individual boxes, but make them actually talk to each other and facilitate this things moving to the clinic into the future. So this last board meeting of the year is obviously the time when we always approve the budget for the next year. So there wasn't any major change with the budget since last year. Some small adjustments, but one thing that we wanted to start preparing for towards the future is that in 2 years there will be a new budget period for Scilifelab. Hopefully we will get funding in the next 4 years. But if and when we do, we need to run an international evaluation to see which platforms should continue and in which way should they continue and how they should incorporate new things. And that's a very demanding effort. So we thought that we could already start preparing for that. So a suggestion was made that we allocate funding already today to this planning process, starting essentially in 2019, where our current platforms or new platforms to be sort of decided. This is not yet fully established as a plan yet. That we engage in national discussions, invite experts, invite stakeholders from the whole country to come to Scilifelab to make sure that whatever we do at Scilifelab is in the interest of the national entities, and that they can participate in our future planning of the networks. And maybe in the future, Scilifelab should run more on a platform level than us at the management group or at the board funding individual facilities, because it's very hard for us to see down to individual facilities how well they are working, and is it a facility that will stay for 4 years. But on a platform level, this is more dynamic and could probably work better. So this is an effort in that direction that we already now start, now that we have funded all platforms for the next 2 years essentially, that we start now planning for the future beyond that. And this takes me to the budget, so I'll just show the distribution, which has not much changed, that the biggest platforms have been and they continue to be genomics and drug discovery and development platforms, and the percentages how these other platforms are how much funding they get is roughly the same as before. A total of 193 million crowns per year goes to these platforms. And obviously that's not all that we do, particularly now last year. There has been multiple calls and this has funded the research community programs, technology development programs, and expensive instruments. So this has been a 90 million crown investment to kind of also promote the future planning and future technologies jointly with the SFO funding. So this has also been a great achievement that we have been able to put national funding and SFO funding to help the same projects. One thing where there will be now differences or new developments is concerning Scilifelab Genomics. And this stems from the fact that the current directors, Joakim Lundeberg, Ann-Kristin Syvänen and Ulf Gyllenstein, are stepping down as the directors of the respective facilities that they have been running. Also the National Genome Infrastructure, the VR-funded network, needs to undergo a change, and we had a search underway for a genomics director. We landed in an interim solution, but a permanent appointment with Ulf Gyllenstein being a person who will now step in as a Scilifelab genomics director from January onwards. And he will now be the only director of Scilifelab Genomics. He will have as a task to work with facility directors, and now they have been suggested to be Jessica Nordlund, Lars Voigt, Karsten Daub and Ellen Sherwood, who will help Ulf and work together with Ulf in that setting. We will also kind of integrate back to the genomics facilities, the eukaryotic single-cell sequencing facility run by Richard Sandberg and the microbial single-cell sequencing by Stefan Bertilsson, and also the ancient DNA facility. So overall, this encompasses a lot of activities. And the idea is that unlike today, when everything is kind of run as a separate facility, we try to make both the Stockholm and Uppsala work as a single platform and a single facility which does certain things, but is not defined by location. And bring the single cells as part of the same thing, so that we don't have a boundary between genomics and single cell work. And also try to maximize the synergies between this and the bioinformatics and the clinical sequencing efforts. So if you take it all together, there's a lot of issues that there is to be discussed, and this is a big opportunity, but it's also a big challenge to how to integrate everybody to work together under genomics. So this is about half of Scilifelab. So this the first task will be that the VR application needs to be filed. Annika, when is it? January, February? February already. So they have to get to work, and already by February they have to write up a new VR grant. So we really look forward to seeing this happen, and I hope this will be a positive development for everybody, and also sets a little bit the stage of the kind of activities that we would like to see, that people work together regardless of where they are located. I'm just jumping through these topics of the so sorry if this is a little bit of a jumpy presentation, but the board meeting is a jumpy thing from one topic to another. We decided to update our international advisory board composition recently, because we have two people who have stepped down. Janet Thornton and our previous chair of the board, who has now been replaced by Jan Ellenberg. So Jan Ellenberg is today our chair of the advisory board, and we had Sarah Teichmann and Joe Bury from VIB now joining as members of our advisory board. And we hope that they both bring different types of expertise and different types of complementary skills to our advisory board. And this takes me to the advisory board visit, which is taking place in March. But it's already fully in motion when it comes to preparations for this. So we should essentially already before the Christmas vacation have a full document available for describing our activities in the past 2 years, and we have made well, I don't intend you to see this, but we have made a full program for the 2 days that they will, or 2.5 days that they will be here. I'll just point to a few issues here. So in the first evening they will meet with us and they will meet with the board and have a dinner, but then the next day is a description of recent developments at Scilifelab, all the comments to the previous 42 recommendations that they gave to Scilifelab that we had tried to work on. So we'll describe them, what we have done with them. This time we try to describe the host university contributions better. So all the host universities will speak as to what do they do at Scilifelab, what would they like to have happen at Scilifelab, and they will be engaged. We'll discuss the Campus Solna and Navet in Uppsala as joint capabilities. The Scilifelab fellows will meet with the advisory board. The heads of departments of host universities will meet with them. The National Scilifelab Committee will meet with them. And then we will run through strategies on how we will set up the next infrastructure platforms. And all platforms will shortly present their activities and achievements in the past 2 years. And then the advisory board will have 1 hour private time with the rectors. So the idea is really to engage people both ways. And then in the following day we have a special session with DDD. The advisory board requested to have a particular look at the DDD platform this time. They always want to have some kind of special activities in that sense. And then we will present the Scilifelab research community programs that were just approved recently for them, maybe some other kinds of activities. And then on noon on Friday, which happens on the Uppsala side, we will start to, or they will start to then discuss as to what kind of advice would they like to give us, and they will probably give us some oral comments from this visit there, but then it will take about 2 months and we hopefully will get a advisory board readout at that point. Okay, final point about the board meeting was that there is a process underway that many platforms would like to have better legal ability. DDD was already given a legal ability through Uppsala in a temporary arrangement, because there are 4 universities participating, or even more than 4. How many are there? 5 participating in DDD. And Uppsala will now represent all these 5 universities when they need to make a contract with an external user. And this is really important not only for DDD but all kinds of platforms at Scilifelab. And we have really been suffering from the fact that our legal representation is totally distributed. So if you are at KI, your legal house is KI. If you are in Uppsala, it's Uppsala and KTH and so forth. And in some universities, legal work happens well, and in some places not so well. And therefore, this is an effort that Lasse Hammarström is driving, that we will have an exploration of what are the options available, and hope to kind of get that done through the external relations office that I just mentioned in the beginning. So then, as a final point, the National Scilifelab Committee, meaning those universities that are not Scilifelab host universities, have now met twice. And these meetings have in general been very positive. I mean, initially it was a little chaotic when they didn't really fully understand Scilifelab, but now in the second meeting this was very progressive. And the essential single message that we should really strongly consider is that they have been saying that they would like their host universities line up and link up with Scilifelab. I'm not saying that they would like to become members or that they would become host universities, maybe not so, but we should formally consider that we would have a national Scilifelab. Scilifelab Sweden kind of a activity. So I'm not sure that this is going to happen, whether this will be possible and whether it makes sense, but at least for your information that such discussions are at least underway. This is obviously a major issue, and in order for that to make sense, I mean, we would also need to have more funding from the government. But I don't see us otherwise being able to also get more funding unless we bring the whole country along, because otherwise the ones who are out say no, and the ones who are in say yes, and then the government will not do anything. So I think we almost have to take this into consideration. And for that reason, this planning that I mentioned earlier, that platforms should undertake, is so important that we still have a research center in Stockholm, we still have a research center in Uppsala. That should not change. But this national funding that we do to promote platforms and their activities, that could be national in the future. So this brings me to the final point that all this last week was full of meetings and brainstorming and retreats and so forth. So in a way, and also discussion with the Campus Solna activities. So one plan that we could have is a fully national infrastructure with integrated research capabilities. We should probably also, because there is national government planning starting soon with the Life Science Office, we should issue a kind of a statement on Scilifelab side as to what is Scilifelab, what can it do, how can it promote life science in Sweden. In the management group retreat we were, and also in the PI retreat we were discussing with research strategy, but also the need to have a faculty definition or group definition. And these following slides that I show are by no means decided on, they're just sort of a draft discussion formats only, but I like to show them just so that you can get to see and participate. So the difficulty has been that we don't have any definition of who is in Scilifelab, who is out of Scilifelab, who is associated with Scilifelab. And this has been lingering for the past, well, I would say 9 years, as long as Scilifelab has existed. And we should at least finally try to come up with some kind of a description of this. And this is what we were discussing. And again, this is only a draft of the picture, that the core of Scilifelab would be facilities and capabilities. Note the new word capability that came up, that this is maybe more than a facility. Capability is something that brings the people and brings the community and brings the research and brings the data into it, and that makes a capability. And the capability is essentially the thing that we can do at Scilifelab. So this is the core, and then around that is research, Scilifelab research, focusing on technology development and interactive research with the core. And then we have the community, which are essentially the regular users of infrastructure, also health, industry and environmental thing. And maybe the ones, and first of all, maybe we shouldn't call them faculty, we should maybe call them group leaders or something like that, because we are not a university, we are a research collaborative effort. So maybe they should be called Scilifelab group leaders. And in a sense, the Campus Solna is maybe somewhere here. And similarly, we have a site in Uppsala, which is associated with this. I couldn't just, it doesn't mean that Uppsala is further out from the technology. I just didn't couldn't put it overlapping. And then maybe we have national faculty, national group leaders as well, which would also be important. But the focus of research would still be Stockholm and Uppsala, but the national infrastructure should be maybe more. And then from the PI retreat, and particularly with Päivi, helped us to put this together. Now, when this has been transferred from one computer to another, the colors have changed and the fonts have lined up a bit strangely, but this was essentially initially only a draft on what is happening at Campus Solna, but maybe this could be set to represent more broadly Scilifelab as a whole. So we have kind of a genome biology, proteome biology, both are very strong, chemical biology and synthetic biology. And then lined up with it is kind of the systems biology where you integrate data. And then on this side is spatial biology, which is imaging. So in a sense, you have two ways to go. You either go to a quantitative analysis and integration, or you go to an imaging-based visualization of biology. And then we have the three fields: precision medicine, environmental monitoring, and industrial biotechnology, that are kind of the application areas of Scilifelab. So red, green, and white biotechnology, if you want to put it that way. Technology development feeding it, and computational work supporting it. So this is just another way of describing, where you usually have just this platform sort of a description. So I like that this is a bit more integrated looking view on Scilifelab, not just on technologies, but also on science topics. Obviously, they are very related to each other. We also have had a lot of discussions on space allocations on the Campus Solna. I'm not going to go through to that one. I'm just showing you the puzzle pieces that are on the map. So if you consider these two buildings, and if you sometimes suffer from lack of space or would like to expand, this is the little piece that if you take out one piece, or if you want to put in one piece somewhere, there's a lot of sort of a domino effects that come to play. And this is what we discussed with the host university rectors on Friday as well, that we need to also have a sort of a plan for the Campus Solna as to where does Campus Solna go, but I'm not going to go through that in detail now. So that's all that I had to say. And if any of you have any questions, did we still have the mic somewhere? Because if somebody's online, you would not be heard unless you state your question, or I can repeat your question if you have questions. But thank you for staying around. Kalle is the microphone boy.
Any questions?
No reason to be shy. Even Hjalmar, you don't have any questions. You typically always have a question.
No, I kept nodding. I usually take note of my idea.
I have a question regarding the evaluation that you mentioned. Is that mainly for the course and platforms, not including research?
Yeah, that's a good point. So first of all, I don't think we should call it an evaluation. So it's an advisory board meeting for Scilifelab, but that advisory board reports to the national board. So therefore, national board mostly deals with infrastructure issues. But they are extremely interested and kind of concerned also that this should be considered one, that we should not just talk about research, but that we should create a research center around the infrastructure. So indirectly, like the fellows issues and these research communities, we want to highlight Scilifelab research, because it's also one of the best ways of showing what the infrastructure can do. And then maybe in the future, and this is just speculating, there's no decision on this, we will have a separate evaluation of the infrastructure for Scilifelab. This is likely to happen in about a year from now, or a bit more than that, which will help us to define the next budget. But maybe we should then have an advisory visit for research at Scilifelab as well, to help plan how research should go forward. But the IAB is like the umbrella platform that advises us on anything and everything. And like we've seen last time, we can't control on what they will advise us on and what they will say to us. So they will look at everything. but it's infrastructure related. Kalle, you want to sort of because they report to Kalle, essentially.
So the International Advisory Board we have normally comes in every second year. So now March 2019, it's time for their third visit. And they have been very, very eager and at their past visits and given a lot of recommendations. And I think it's very useful for us to have them as an international expert panel, really. The persons on this are high caliber and they have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and we can benefit a lot from that.
But maybe also the point that if you have some points that you would like us to bring to the advisory board, I mean, feel free to let us know. Okay, shall we interpret this that you are happy and satisfied and will go home and sleep well this night? So if that is the case, we stop this for now, and thanks so much.